it's Erin. I'm here at Tallgrass Film Festival in Wichita, Kansas, and I'm here with the lovely Abigail, who is a filmmaker. So tell us a little bit about your film.
I'm here with a film called Do You Dream in Color? It's a documentary about four blind teenagers pursuing their dreams. So it's a bit of a coming-of-age story, but it also takes a look at some of the attitudinal barriers and institutional barriers that young disabled people face. So it's fun and it's uplifting and reminiscent of pretty much the universal American high school experience, but it also kind of looks at some of the realistic issues that blind students face in the U.S. Blindness can range from being visually impaired to being completely blind, and most people who are blind still will see shadows, or maybe they can have a light perception. So there is a range, but they are all technically blind, but some may see some shapes or shadows or be able to see light every once in a while. So it kind of depends, and it ranges too as their conditions change as they age.
So do you address that sort of spectrum of blindness in your film, so that, because I think most people, we think of someone who's blind as just living in a world of pitch black, as if we walked around with our eyes closed.
So the film really looks at what the experience is of being blind, and you're right, a lot of people kind of make assumptions about it. It would be as though I closed my eyes and then had to navigate the world. But for somebody who's born blind, or even for somebody who goes blind and then is trained to understand how to interact with the world around them, it's not just closing their eyes and trying to get around. Connor, who's one of the subjects, is attempting to become a sponsored skateboarder. So that's just an example of the fact that most of us, if suddenly we put a blindfold on, would have a hard time skateboarding. But he's able to use sound and like echolocation to be able to understand the world around him. So all of the subjects in the film have an ability to have a very full 100% complete experience of the world. It's just without vision.
So are these four young people, do they know each other? Is this in the same area, or did you have to really work for a long time to find these individuals?
They're all throughout the state of California, so we met them while we were volunteering and hanging out at different blind summer camps and through some of the organizations in both Northern and Southern California. But so they're spread out throughout the state. They do know each other, but in the film they don't interact. We kind of follow the four separate stories over the course of a year, and then we kind of weave the four stories into one singular narrative. We premiered in February at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Montana, and then have been kind of taking it all over. It's been in Colorado, and it's played in Texas and Ohio and California, and so it's been fun seeing people's reactions to it in different parts of the country. And I think what's been really rewarding but also scary is the fact that some of the issues that the students face and the kids face in our film are really not they're not isolated experiences. As we've shown it, every time we screen the film, there's a special ed teacher, or there is a student or a family or a parent or an individual that says that they've had to deal with some of the same issues that are conveyed in our film. So it's great to see that it's an important story that needs to be told, but it's also always alarming to know that this is something that's currently going on all over the place in large numbers. And so I think that's been a really fascinating part of the festival experience for us.
So are you finding that audiences are really being educated about it, an issue that they didn't know anything about before?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the biggest takeaway that we have is, pun intended, I guess, that people's eyes are opened to a little bit, not only about an experience of a world being disabled and kind of coming of age and being a teenager and dealing with those normal growing pains and being different, but also in terms of some of the more institutional, educational, attitudinal, social issues that you face when you're blind or disabled, and how they really kind of have an impact from a young age, and then through the rest of your life. The statistic for the unemployment rate for blind adults is 70%. And the graduation rates are lower, and the film kind of takes a look at through the kind of the examples that are illustrated with a couple of the characters in the film, why that happens. And it's not because they're less capable or less intelligent or not as motivated. It's really a result of the fact that the systems aren't in place to really give them the proper access. So we look at that, but not as a kind of a heavy-handed, like advocacy, agenda-driven call to action film. It really is the simple story of these four individuals, and through their stories and their experiences, you kind of learn what that's like and what the obstacles are. What's really interesting and that we captured with young adults is you're at the point in life where adulthood is around the corner, and you have to really understand what you want to do for the rest of your life. You're making big decisions about maybe where you want to go to college, or who you are as an individual, or figuring out your identity. I think most of us do that at that time in high school. But when you're then also realizing that I'm different, people don't understand what I'm capable of, people misunderstand what my disability is, people don't expect much of me. So it has a huge impact on that whole experience, that coming of age experience. Yeah. So I think that looking at 4 regular American teenagers with real teenage goals of in a garage band wanting to perform and, want to go skateboarding and wanting to travel, things that we can all relate to. But then they also have this added element that they have to kind of navigate, which is how do I show people who I am, and how do I figure out my own identity, and figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life when I'm different. One of the girls in the film goes to prom, and we have a garage band, and it's we can all kind of relate to that high school experience and that experience of being young and figuring out how to be cool, or whether or not what we're into, or what clique, or what music, or what motivates us. And I think that that's universal, and you relate to the characters in the film that way. But I think that in addition to having an adult focus audience that can relate to it, we played here in Wichita East High School to about 400 or 500 high school students earlier this week, and that was incredibly rewarding because I think high school students are also hopefully a focus audience for us. Not necessarily the only audience, but I think that the film can have a lot of impact, and that young people can relate to this story as well.
So is it something that's appropriate for people like, say, 12 and up?
I would say all ages.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Can get behind this film. It's very family friendly. Moms tend to really like it. Mm-hmm. But seeing a bunch of young people really engaged and rooting for the characters, and really feeling like they could relate to some of the issues, even though they weren't blind, and maybe change their mind about how they might treat somebody with a disability. That's a huge impact that we can have if we have that, if we're able to kind of reach a young audience.
Well, it sounds like something that we would all benefit from seeing. So where can the general public watch for this film? Can we get it digitally soon?
Right now, we just signed on with our distribution company, and so that strategy of how the film is going to be rolled out, probably next February or March, we're in the process of
so within the year. That's pretty incredible. Okay, so that's awesome.
So we're rounding out the festival circuit, and we hope that the film will be out sometime early next year. And I can't say for sure now where you'll be able to see it, but if you log onto our website, join our mailing list, or like us on Facebook, Do You Dream in Color, then we'll be posting as soon as we have updated information on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, and I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your festival, and I wish you the best of luck with your film.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks for having me.